Good evening, leadership professionals. For those of you that hadn't had an opportunity to view one of my previous presentations, I'd like to take this time to introduce myself. My name is Dennis Wilson, and I'm a sophomore at Troy University. Now, some of you are probably looking at the screen thinking, what's he doing with a carrot and a chocolate bunny to his side? Well, it seems like every time I have to give a presentation, it's right around a holiday. So keeping with tradition, I want to take the time right now to wish each and every one of you and your families a happy Easter. On a more serious note, the objective of my presentation this evening is to provide you, my fellow leadership professionals, with what I believe are critical leadership principles that enable the effective performance of a team. During my presentation, I'll cover three main points. First one, I'll discuss how to develop and maintain a leadership mindset. I'll speak to the criticality of leadership by example. And finally, I will discuss the importance of good communication skills when it comes to leadership. So when I was trying to figure out how I talk to you, the audience, about what a leadership mindset is, and I was conducting research, I ran across this article from a gentleman by the name of Professor John Taylor, who teaches at the University of San Francisco. He discusses the importance of having a leadership mindset when leading teams and organizations. Your mindset is so influential because it determines how you think about and interpret situations. It plays into your emotional reactions, the decisions that you're going to make, and essentially the action that you'll take while leading that group. So your mindset directly impacts the quality of your relationships, the interactions you have, and the way you lead. It also sets the tone for the team and the organization and determines what kind of experience your teammates will have when working on a project. You know, there's like 4 critical points to having a leadership mindset. You know, the first one, commitment. See, leaders must be passionate, meaning they're driven to lead and excel in everything they do. While doing this, though, you always have to keep in mind the welfare of your subordinates. Accountability. You know, as a leader, you have to hold everybody to the same standard, including yourself. Always remember, as a leader, you can delegate authority, but you can never delegate responsibility. It's that old saying that the buck stops here, you know. You get the accolades, but you also get the trials and tribulations when your team fails. Another good one that they like to discuss is performance, you know. Always look for ways for you and your team to take it to the next level. Strive to bring your teammates with you. You know, we as leaders, we got to develop our teammates to become the next generation of leaders. And finally, which one that I think is very foundational, is trust. Remember, trust is a two-way street. You know, you have to give trust to receive trust. You know, never go into a new situation or a new team and discount the abilities and attributes of your team members. That is a surefire way to disrupt the production of the team. Next, I'm going to transition to leading by example. You know, I like to summarize leading by example as doing the right thing for the right reason, even when no one's watching. You as a leader always have to lead with integrity, both in your actions, your mannerisms, and your activities. You know, you do not want to be one of these leaders that's do as I say, not as I do. You know, you want to inspire people to be good leaders and good followers. And the only way you're able to do that is, one, if they trust you and they feel that you have integrity. Remember, as a leader, you're always under scrutiny from both your subordinates and your seniors. So you must have integrity in everything that you do. And you need to be consistent. way to lead by example is through moral courage. You know, you got to have the moral courage to tell people when things are right and when things are wrong. You know, going along with that moral courage, you know, have the moral courage to engage in healthy conflict. You know, healthy conflict is really, at the end of the day, how things get done. You know, you put a diverse group of individuals together that all have different ideas and perspectives. If you're able to foster that conflict and turn it into healthy conflict, you'd be surprised at the achievements that you can have. But always remember, when you engage in healthy conflict, never take it personal and never make it personal. You know, that kind of leads into, you know, as you're going through the healthy conflict, as you start talking about your communication skills. You know, I think it was Dr. Klein in one of our previous modules, or it could have been the introduction to leadership, that said, you know, you can't be a good leader without being a good communicator. They go hand in hand. You know, there's so many different facets of communication. You know, when you look at it from a verbal and nonverbal perspective, you know, verbal communication, you know, most of us do fairly well with that. I know one of the problems that I experience is I don't have always what they sometimes call a poker face. You know, there is times when I let my reaction and I wear my reaction. I will tell you that is one, you know, it's distracting. It sends the individual that's either briefing or talking to you to question what they're saying, and it doesn't allow for the free flow of dialogue. So you always have to be cognizant of your nonverbal cues. One of the things that I really appreciated throughout both these classes that I've taken is the active listening perspective. You know, being an individual that did 20 years in the service and currently working in the last 10 years for the Department of Defense, we're resource constrained, so we're always multitasking. What I found out was a lot of times when folks would come into my office, I'm trying to do 2 or 3 things while they're trying to have a conversation with me. Just here recently, over the last 60 days, I make it a point now that when somebody walks into my office, I turn my 2 computer screens off and I give them my undivided attention. I try to be that active listener. I want them to know that what they have to say is as important to me as it is to them. And always, as a leader, you know, when you're giving guidance and direction, you know, be accurate, be brief, and be concise. You know, give the ABCs. You know, that allows individuals to be able to take your guidance and put it into action. And just remember, at the end of the day, in order to be a great leader, you need to be a great communicator. So as I talked about these 3, what I believe are the 3 key points and to be an effective team leader, if you take all 3 of those actions and you practice those, it will give you the foundation of leading diverse teams. But as a leader, you have to remember, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. There are many situations I go into every day that I'm not sure I know what to do. But if you follow those principles, you'll be amazed at your outcomes. So in summary, I discussed 3 main points, and I covered what I believed are the critical leadership traits required to lead an effective team. Number 1, having a leadership mindset. Remember, if you believe you can, you're already halfway there. Lead by example in both your actions, words, behavior, and always lead with integrity. You know, there's a book out there called, Leaders Eat Last. You know, and Mr. Simon Sinek says, you know, there's 2 ways to manipulate human behavior. You can manipulate it or you can inspire it. We should all achieve to inspire. And then finally, the importance of communication when it comes to leadership. You know, Albert Einstein said one time, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So finally, in closing, I really appreciate each and every one of you and your time that you spent with me this evening while I gave this presentation. I wish each of you the best as we continue this leadership journey, and have a good night.